everyone, on behalf of the Mindalia TV team, welcome to Mindalia live streaming. Today we have the company of Sylvia Albrecht. In this space, she's going to be talking with us about animals and plant communication. Sylvia is a biologist and zoologist with the very special ability of communicating with animals. Before starting with Sylvia, we want to remind you that Mindalia.com is an international nonprofit organization and that you can collaborate with us by liking this video, leaving us a positive comment, subscribing to our channel, or sharing this content with someone that you know that can benefit or that can like what we're gonna be discussing today. We also want you to participate with us. We want to invite you to do it through the active chat. You're more than welcome to enter your comments or your questions. Having said that, we have now the great pleasure of welcoming Sylvia. Welcome to Mindalia live streaming. How are you?
Thank you. I'm fine. Thank you very much for the invitation, for that possibility to speak at Mindalia.
We are more than happy to have you. You were with us not long ago on a Spanish platform. And of course, whenever we find someone that has very interesting content, we want to bring it to our English-speaking audience. And you are definitely one of a kind. We're very pleased to hear what you have to say. You are a zoologist. You are a biologist. You have like the scientific titles on wildlife and conservation, right?
Yes, I have. I'm a biologist, but I do a little bit more than biology. I would say what we actually know about biology. So you mentioned already that I speak or communicate with animals and plants, and I do that with telepathy.
So that is a word that can raise many flags. People can say like telepathy, and it isn't that like a trick? Isn't that just a myth? Is that real? But I am pretty sure that you can say yes, it's real. It happens. And not only that, but you told me that we all have it. We just can't remember, right?
Exactly. I'm absolutely sure, and I'm not the only person who thinks that, that it's a birth given, it's not an instinct, it's not a body language, it's like a language, but it's a little bit more. But in the Western or modern world, we only lost that ability. So all small kids use it, for example, but they were told you can't do that, you can't talk to dogs or you can't talk to cats. And with the time you forget that ability, how to use it. Sometimes there is a spark of it. Maybe the mobile phone is ringing and it's that person, or a more severe situation, your sister or your friend has a really bad accident, and suddenly you have that knowledge in your brain. Wow, something happened, completely independent where the person is or where you are or in which situation you are. You have that knowledge. And sometimes we see that in Hollywood movies, for example. But it's true. We still can do that, and we can communicate with all forms who have soul.
So we have been basically convinced that we cannot do it. That's the only reason why we don't do it, because we've been told we can't. But how did it happen to you? Have you always been like that, or all of a sudden you found yourself listening? Because I understand it's not something that you hear with your actual ear, but something that you just perceive through a different source. Am I right?
You're right. Luckily, I had a family, and my family was very open to all topics. So we're not religious. We respect all other religions or other thinkings, but we are quite open to things which are going on in the world. And my parents said, "Oh, she can talk with animals. That's great." So I never forgot how to use it.
Wow, that's amazing. So basically a supportive family system that's not telling you what you cannot do. Because that's what we are taught most of the times, right? We're growing, and the very first things we hear because of of course, our parents think that they are educating us and with their best intentions, but they are the ones that tell you, no, you cannot do this, no, you are not this, or you are not gonna be that, right? And we start losing certain abilities. And when you talk to animals or when you talk to plants, let's not say talk, but when you communicate, what's the source? How's that?
It's a little bit complex. I think there is like an internet, but it's not an artificial internet. It's from the nature. It's everywhere, and we can connect with that net. It's invisible, like Wi-Fi. And so what I do, I imagine that I connect with that invisible internet by Wi-Fi, and then I start to talk with them. If it's a really deep conversation, but I also have cats at home, and at home it's like to have a chat. Can you do that? Or do you have an idea about that? And it's not with that kind of meditation, but when I do that, for example, for clients, and I really have to be concentrated on that, or with an animal in the nature, I close my eyes, I contact with that net, I focus on a picture. So also a real photo can be an access to an animal, which I haven't seen before. It's like an email address, an ID, and a name is helpful. If not, for example, wild animals do not have a name, doesn't matter. It's also possible. And you're absolutely right. You can say talk, because sometimes I hear words like a real conversation as we have, but they don't think in words. Thanks to that internet, we have a kind of Google Translate. And I can't understand wow, wow, or meow, or other forms. Automatically, they give an information into the net, and it will be transformed individually from me in words, emotions, pictures. I'm a very visual person, so I will receive more pictures maybe than a person who is more focused on or has more emotions. Then that person has more emotions, and it's really good because you have that individual translation.
Wow, that's amazing. You know what I was actually thinking is that, okay, you do know that you can do it because it's been happening to you forever. But when you say that we all can do it, why? Why can you give such a statement when like such a high, if not everybody in the population of Earth are convinced that that can happen, unless we're talking about tribes and people that live more connected to nature, that I do know they still keep that. But what makes you think that we all can do it if you're the only one in your circle that can?
Luckily, I experienced it in my seminars, because I also give courses to learn it again. And within a weekend, people were able to connect to them. And thanks to two cats of mine, because we talked about the questions and the answers, I can check if the answers are correct or not. And they gave me the correct answers. So I know it's possible within a short time to get a first channel, to get a first connection, to send information and to receive information. So the method is really easy, but to understand it, that takes time. It's like a language.
It is definitely a language. Well, not probably etymologically speaking, it may not be a language, but it's a form of communication. And we're talking here. I believe you. I do believe you. Why not? Right? But someone that has never experienced any type of these topics and that haven't met people with similar capabilities may be saying, "Oh my God, no, that's not real." Even though they may have experienced something similar once, we convince ourselves that whatever is not within that mind frame and structure of what we consider to be true, it's just nonsense. How do you deal with that? Because I'm pretty sure that you have heard that 100 different times, like, you're just crazy, that's not happening. How do you handle that? Because I see you very comfortable.
I'm absolutely very comfortable because some people said, "Ah, you can't do that with my pet." And I did. And animals know a lot about the owners, about the family where they live with. And they gave me so much information about how the apartment looks like, so I can describe apartments. I have a lot of information about the family because normally I translate between humans and animals or plants. And if there is a problem, I can help to solve the problem. And of course, therefore, I'm not only for translation, also for mediation. And so I help both sides, not only the side on the animal. It's about definitions, it's about solving problems together. So the animal with the humans solve problems together. And I have so many cases where it's so much better afterwards. And it's an evidence. First of all, it's an evidence what I see, what I feel, and what I know afterwards. And it's an evidence that afterwards, in most cases, it's much better within the family.
I have so many questions, and it goes from the very philosophical deep to the silliest ones. And I hope I have enough time to ask most of them. The first thing I want to ask you, when you hear people say that animals can't feel, that animals can't think, or that they don't even understand they're in a cage, what do you have to say about that?
It reminds me about a situation at school when I was 14. I had a very long and strong discussion with my teacher, and he said, animals can't think, they can't feel. And luckily, that's what science also knows. There is a scientific evidence that they have emotions, that they have feelings, they are more intelligent as we expect. It's incredible what they get about humans. It's what they know about situations between humans or what they know about ecosystems. So as a wildlife biologist, I never spoke with my colleagues at that time. That was 10 years ago. But they always asked me, how can you work with animals like this? And how do you know which data are significantly correlated? Because I asked them, I asked the deer, what do you think about that? And I checked my data, and it was true.
Wow, that's super interesting. And that happens with domestic animals, and that happens with wildlife animals that you are very in contact with because of your profession, right?
Yes, that's true.
And okay, so maybe we can understand communicating with animals because they kind of have the same, they're very similar to us. They move, they breathe, they emit sounds. How about plants? That's going beyond. So plants can also my first question is, plants communicate between each other, right? Because I do know, according to science, as they have read a couple of researches in which, yes, plants do communicate not only underground through their roots and through the spores that they are throwing in the air, but that they even emit sounds. It's just that our ears are not designed to listen to the frequencies of what the plants are actually emitting, the sounds that comes from them. How did you realize you could talk to a plant, like the little prince?
I have to say, with plants, it's not for my whole lifetime because I was always focused more or less on animals, and with plants, it's only for 2 years meanwhile. And I was thinking, okay, of course, plants have a very complex communication with chemicals, with what you mentioned, with roots and so on. So there's a lot of scientific evidence. And with telepathy, on one day, I thought, okay, people said it's possible, so I will try it with that tree. And it was incredible. The information from that tree was, I need help for my reproduction. I'm sick. And I was thinking, what's going on? Look, first of all, I was quite impressed. Okay, it's possible to communicate with plants with telepathy. Why not? I mean, they also have a soul, and these years are incredible in science as well, because they have incredible evidence about the consciousness in plants, where I'm also very happy with. And with that tree, the tree said, okay, I'm sick. Can you help me with reproduction? That time was in Germany. I'm German. And at that time, I lived in Berlin. And he said, okay, these 2 years were very harsh. 1 year was very dry. The other year was very wet. And he struggled with reproduction, or she in that case. And it was right. Then I checked the tree, and the tree wasn't healthy. And she gave me all the information what I have to do, and it was absolutely right. Exact places where one of these fruits, which was really hard to find, it was November, and everything was covered with leaves, and it was already too late, more or less. And all the other information, I have to take the soil, and I was wondering, what shall I do with soil, please? I can go to a supermarket, buy some soil for plants, and that's it. So I didn't take the soil. And at home, I checked the internet. And for this species, you need the soil. So it was also true. So, oh well, on the next day, I went back, took some soil and tried it, and with all the guidance. And it was also an information, take one of the branches. And I was thinking, okay, I can take a branch for a nice part of my apartment for some decoration. Then I checked the internet, and you can also reproduce them with the branches. And I felt a little bit stupid afterwards because the tree knew so much, and I, as a biologist with plants, failed a little bit. But with that guidance, it was possible.
How is that seen within your professional circle? When you tell people that have been studying for years, and you give them, that your experience, when you talk about what you've been through and what you know, what are their faces like? Do they take it nicely? Do they believe it? Do they take advantage? Because that's what I would do. I would take advantage of something that has a form of communication that I'm lacking. It sounds advantageous from my point of view, but it's not always like that within very, communities that are so close-minded that they need data and statistics to prove that something exists. How has that been in your journey?
Very, very different. Some people said, shall I say something? I am also communicating with animals and plants, but don't tell the others. Or others say, yeah, I'm quite sure that will exist. And I have the same opinion. I think in 10 years, at latest, it will be normal. And I'm quite sure that this net has something to do with quantum physics. And there are so many experiments going on, and I'm quite sure we will get the answer how that works. And with others, of course, they say all experiments didn't work. But for example, if you do that experiment with 2 people who, for example, who can't speak English, and you make a test if English exists, afterwards you would figure out, no, it's not working because they can't speak English. So, but the result is they can't speak English, so English doesn't exist, but English exists. For me, it's like that case.
Tell me something. What is the most so far moving experience? Something that you can say that has marked you. Something that you feel that changed the way you see the world. What's that like, or the most valuable information that you have gotten in all these years regarding the communication with plants and animals?
Oh, I mean, there are so many stories, which I will also start to write down in my blog. But one was very impressive. One was with a tree, where I learned so much about, and another one was with one of my cats. He's from an animal shelter. He was treated very, very hard by other people, and it's really hard to work with him. So my part is also animal behavior. But he's very sensitive, and you have these characters, and especially with telepathy, you will figure out how that character is more deeply inside. So you have a different access. And one story was on one day I had another appointment, and normally when he was in the garden, of course he's a cat, some days he brought a mouse or a rat, and he did that only for eating, and normally he's very quick and killing. It's not a toy for him, but not on that day. He brought a live rat at home. I had to go. I saw the rat running into my bedroom, and I was thinking, oh my God, I have to go. What shall I do? Okay, please kill it immediately, because the animal was really hurt, and I thought there was no chance for survival because of inner bleeding. And he went there. He was shocked. Why shall I do that? And he looked at me and said, are you crazy? And he said, oh, okay, I have no chance. I locked the door. The rat was in my bedroom. 2 hours later, I came home. They thought, okay, the rat might be dead. I checked. The rat was still alive, very happy under my bed. Elias, that's my cat, he was completely shocked about my decision to kill the rat. I couldn't kill the rat. There were no inner bleedings. The rat was okay, but with that problem here, I couldn't bring it back to nature. So within 5 days, the rat stayed in my apartment in a corner. It was one of the greatest wild rats. Normally, for all other people, I'm absolutely experienced with rats. Please don't do that with wild rats. So I knew how to handle that animal, and I brought it back to nature. And then I asked my cat, not before, and that was my mistake. Then I asked my cat, why have you done that? Because it was your wish. And I'm thinking, are you crazy? That wasn't my wish. Why shall I have a wild rat in my bedroom? And he was right. Many, many years before I had cats, I had rats, normal pets, not from the nature, as pets. And 2 days before that situation with the wild rat happened, I was sitting on my couch and thinking, on one day in 10 or 20 years, when the cats do not live anymore, it would be great to have a rat again, one of these friendly rats I have. So it took him 2 or 3 days to find a friendly rat to bring it to me, because he didn't get the information that it's in the future and not now.
They don't really understand about time, right?
Exactly.
Wow.
We understand, but some information is somewhere in the space, or he didn't listen properly, or I did a mistake, because I thought these thoughts were only for myself, but it's not true. It's in the system.
Exactly. We tend to think that if we're not saying it out loud, it's not reaching anywhere. But the truth is that they're waves, right? Frequencies of what we want. What do you think about the treatment we give to not only to wild animals, not only to the animals that are in labs and or in farms being neglected, but it looks like we neglect our pets as well. We dress them, we sing happy birthday, we do things that are maybe not within their own nature. Do they appreciate that, or some of them do and some of them don't?
Of course, it depends on the person. I met wonderful persons with wonderful pets and with a very good connection with wildlife. And of course, there are other persons on that planet. I mean, I must not say anything about that. We all know that. And my wish is that everybody can talk to animals and to understand what they really feel, what they really know, who they really are. And then automatically comes a complete different picture, also with more respect, also with the knowledge, okay, it's that species. I must not use clothes for a dog and with pink hair or whatever. That dog is a dog, and that dog needs nature. And for all the others who treat animals in a really bad way, please feel how it feels like, because with telepathy you can also receive how it feels. You will get emotions. You can feel the pain if you want. If you ask the animal, can I ask you how does it feel? Then you can get the information. And with that, there's more respect, not only with animals and plants. If we have a little bit more respect for humans as well, that would be great.
That kind of feels that there's a very thin line between living your ability as a blessing or as a burden, because we are exposed to so much negligence, right?
Yes. So there's also so much more how we can connect again with nature, because I think we lost that contact a little bit. Oh, a little bit is quite optimistic in some cases. I think we have to be grounded a little bit more. I mean, that film Avatar, it's from Hollywood, without any question. But there are some really, really good pictures with the situation where they connect with the hair. It's like with a telepathy with that net, or they ground themselves with the roots. That's what we can also do. I do that when I connect an animal or a plant. I do that with myself as well. I imagine that roots come out from my feet to connect with the earth. Afterwards, I do the connection, and then I open that channel to communicate with the animal. And it's not only for telepathy, it brings a calm mind.
Wow. And so is you teach that to people. There's people that are interested, that they want to feel what you feel, that they want to experience what you've been experiencing, and you can teach them. They go to you and you give them tools for them to practice at home, or how does that work?
Yeah, exactly. I teach it. And right now in seminars on site, I live in Spain, close to the Pyrenees. I can see the 3,000 meters Pyrenees from here. Looks wonderful. And at the moment, I give courses in other cities, for example, but I'm planning online courses as well, because I'm interested in to offer it more internationally without using airplanes. Carbon dioxide is not the best solution.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You know what? Let's bring a question that you got from Unakit33. Can pets communicate with us while we are sleeping?
Normally, I can speak with animals while they are sleeping. I can feel it. It's very slow. And if we train telepathy a little bit more, then it should be possible in the other way as well. And if it's still inside, I would say it should be possible. I have no evidence for it.
So if we wanted to learn, to communicate with other animals, what is the very first thing we need to do? Can we do it in this rush? We are all day and all night. We're in a rush and our mind is everywhere but here. Can we do it from that state of mind, or do you teach maybe to be calmer, to be more integrated with the environment?
The last one, yes. And it's like playing a guitar. If you train that only 5 minutes per day, it takes longer. If you do that a little bit more often, it's quicker. And of course, it's with the talent as well. A person is very good in playing a guitar and is quick. Another person needs a little bit longer, or it's the same with language, with English, for example, or Spanish. It's very individual and the level will be different. But in general, everybody can do it. And yeah.
Okay, now, do you feel that maybe your capability of communicating with other humans has also improved? Do you think that you are able to read more feelings instead of what we say? Because it happens that we are so used to not being ourselves. We are so used to complying with so many social constructs and so many norms that are not necessarily, in sync with our feelings and who we really are, that I guess that we ourselves are kind of lost in translation between how we feel and how we really want to be. Do you think that maybe knowing how to communicate with people that don't necessarily have the same language as you have taught you also to communicate with people that not necessarily have the same mindset or language as you?
I would say a very good example are kids. You put or have a kindergarten with all nations in, and they understand each other because I'm quite sure they also use telepathy. They are from different cultural backgrounds, so sometimes they also use a different body language, but I'm quite sure they still use it. And with humans, if we use it, there are many, many ethics how to use telepathy. It's the same with the chair. You can bring two chairs together and people can have a wonderful conversation. Or you have a chair, bind a person on the chair and torture the person. So a language is a very powerful tool. You can hurt a person with language and you can help a person with language. It's the same with telepathy. So when we start with telepathy and for example, maybe you have a very good friend and you automatically know what she's thinking and you say the same at the same time. That's it. That's it. It's the same frequency over a time. You adapt to it and you share emotions, you share information. And if you handle it a little bit better, then you can also control it. Because, for example, when I use telepathy, independent of with plants, animals, or maybe humans in future, I'm not interested in that all my information is in the system. It's the same with animals. We use filters when we use telepathy. So I can decide now I speak loudly. It's under my control. I have to learn that with telepathy as well. That thought is only for me. That thought is only for that individual, and that thought is for a whole group. So that's what we have to learn, and we have to think about ethics. Really, really about ethics. It's a big topic in these days.
Kind of feels like ethics is a matter of nature, but we humans are the only ones that don't actually respect it, right? It reminds me that not long ago we had in one of our shows in English a bushman, actually a bushwoman. It's from the tribes in Africa, like one of the oldest tribes in Africa. They are actually disappearing. This woman is traveling the world, just letting people know what their culture is before it is completely extinct. So she was actually telling how they do communicate, the animals do communicate, and how they can communicate with the animals. Like they were able, when she was a little girl, to summon a lion. And she was telling us how it is so respectful in the wild that there's such a good understanding on the circle of life that an antelope doesn't even run if they know that the lion has eaten already. The lion comes hungry and that frequency is sent, and that's when the antelope runs. But if the lion is okay, they can just walk by and they're gonna be fine, because they are very in sync with each other's needs at the moment. What do you think about that? Have you seen something similar?
I would say normally it's in a balance. Of course, an antelope is not very happy when she is eaten. That's for sure. But everything is in a balance. And regarding that, by the way, you can also talk with insects. And there are two levels with telepathy. I can talk on the level of the brain. Insects do not have brains. It's too complex to explain it right now. Or with the soul, and that's a more spiritual topic right now. If that is the soul, and everybody has a big soul, independent if we are humans, plants, animals, and we only have that brain, and the soul has only that capacity to use it. I can talk on that level, or I can talk on that level. And with that level, it's also possible to talk with insects, which is quite interesting, by the way. And call me crazy, but it's possible. And I had a very interesting conversation with a queen of a bee. And for her, it was about the life cycle and respect and life in general. And I asked, if you have a wish, what would you wish? And she said, relax a little bit. It was late summer and cost her a fortune of energy to produce all the eggs. And she said, I will die, but that doesn't matter. I will come back as a young queen with full energy. So I don't care. For me, it was okay. I won't say anything here about reincarnation or anything. Everybody
Although you can.
but it's not the first time that an animal says this. So most animals where I talked with about these topics, about life, about death, for them it was sure it's a circle. And they don't care so much about that topic. Kids as well. For kids, it's more natural. It's only for us as adults who struggle with these topics. And I can absolutely agree with that woman.
That is beautiful. It feels like exactly what you're saying. They are just respecting the circle of life, and they are respecting and honoring their position at that very moment, understanding that we are all connected, right?
Yes.
What is the most incredible thing? Like, you tell me that call me crazy. Yes, I'm gonna be calling you crazy, because why in the world are you talking to me, a human, instead of talking to something else that probably has more juicy conversation? But what is the probably a story that makes you laugh, that makes you giggle, something cute, enlightening? Because we're about to close, we're reaching our end, and I always like to leave it with the energy of optimism. There's so much going around us, and it's not everything is happy, not everything looks nice and kind. But if we wanted to leave it on a high note, on a note that is happy and optimistic, and that's gonna make us smile, what is there a story that you would like to share with us under that spirit?
Oh my God, there are so many stories in my mind right now. Again, a story from that cat, because he's very special. At the end of the year, you have to do the taxes when you are self-employed. And I had such a sheet of papers at my home, and I had to fill it out. Germany wasn't so modern at that time. And I struggled a lot, and my cat felt, oh man, you have a lot of problems with that. go away, it's not good for you. I said, I have to do the taxes. Tomorrow I have to give it to them, and that's it. At night, I woke up. Normally, he sleeps at night. And I woke up, he was sitting at the end of my bed, looking at the door to my office. I had my office in my apartment, and he was thinking, can you sleep a little bit? And on the next day at 6 a.m., he woke me up. I found the solution. I solved the problem, how you can get rid of all your problems with that sheets of papers. I will show it to you. And he showed it to me. All the papers were in such small pieces. And he was so proud. I only had to laugh.
I must think we are so stupid. The only thing I feel when I find, if I picture myself being exposed or my problems being exposed to an animal, I think they must feel we're stupid, that we're dumb. We're dressed and we wear heels, and what's that in their faces? Like how do they see us when they see how we complicate ourselves with things we don't really need?
Yes, exactly. And in that case, he didn't want to destroy it. He only wanted to help me. And he found a solution. It was destroyed.
In a way, it was. The problem was gone. There was a bigger one, but the problem was gone with those papers.
Yeah. But nothing happened afterwards, so everything was all right. And we have different definitions, and sometimes we have to talk about it, and sometimes we can only laugh. We can laugh together.
They do laugh. They know laughing, that feeling of making fun of yourself, of someone else in a cute way. They do.
I would say every species has a different type of humor. And with rats, for example, there was a scientific proof that they laugh, but in the frequency of ultrasound, so we can't hear it. And yes, sometimes they have a very good humor. Absolutely.
I have enjoyed this conversation, as you have no idea. And I admire your blessing. I admire the fact that you were able to keep that ability awakened and that you can exercise it. I hope there's more people like you. I do know that there's a lot of people like you out there, but I hope they would share their gift with the world, and I'm pretty sure that that'll give us, better coexistence and more harmonious living. Do you have any words that you would like to say before we finish, before we close, Sylvia?
Yes, I have a wish. Please be more open. That's for everyone. Please be more open with all living forms on that planet, also with ourselves.
Thank you again. On behalf of the Mindalia TV team, we want to thank you for spending time with us. Your time is very valuable, I know that, and because you allowed us to be a channel for your ideas, and you had you accepted the invitation to share with us today. To the people that are watching us, we just want to remind you that Mindalia.com is an international non-profit organization, and that you can collaborate with us by liking this video, leaving us a comment, subscribing to our channel, or you can also share this information with someone that you know that can like it. Having said that, we're just saying now goodbye. Until next time, thank you for being with the Mindalia TV team. Bye.